Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews video. Today we are looking at Vigilus Alone, the supplement covering the War Zone Nachmund story arc season that we've got for 40k. So first of all, massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a copy of this to review and share with you guys. If you've been living under a rock the last couple of months, a little while ago the news broke that Games Workshop we're going to be doing a season system for Warhammer 40,000. So basically, every 6 months, a new story arc will come along, and as part of that, there'll be a narrative supplement, a Crusade book, and a match play book, giving you basically all the rules and point adjustments and missions for that 6-month season, and some narrative content and some fun things to add to that. Now the first of these seasons is Vigilus Alone, and that takes us back to Vigilus, which if you remember rightly is a planet in the Nachmund Gauntlet, which is a safe passage through the Cicatrix Maledictum, which is the kind of tear in space that kind of resulted after the destruction of Cadia in one of the previous story arcs in the edition before last, I think it was. And yeah, in the events of that storyline, Abaddon wanted to take the planet. It ended with disaster being averted and the Vengeful Spirit having to make an emergency jump because I think they put a Death Strike missile in a stealth Eldar ship and sent it towards the Vengeful Spirit in a bid to destroy it, forcing Abaddon to retreat and disappear and his forces to scatter, buying Vigilus a little time. Now, unfortunately for the forces of the Imperium, the forces of Chaos didn't just leave and leave Vigilus to its own devices, and Vigilus and the kind of Nachmund Gauntlet has been under constant attack from aliens, traitors, all sorts of stuff. And this kind of tells us the story of what's happened since then, the story so far, what the various players in the universe are doing at the minute, and essentially we get to see what Abaddon's been up to and what his plans are. So yeah, so obviously we get the narrative element in here. We also get some rules content in this book as well. So there is a full campaign system for playing through this war zone. We get some new rules for the Space Marines with the new Captain and Ancient updated in there. We get a legendary rules for the kind of Phobos armour kind of armies for the Space Marines. We get some additional rules for the Bloody Rose, for the Sisters of Battle, and we get a load of additional Crusade content, such as being able to have banners for your Space Marines that will kind of earn additional abilities over time. So we'll have a look at that briefly. First of all, let's pop this up and have a look at this awesome piece that comes inside. So as part of the book, you actually get a map of Vigilus, and on here we get some trackers that we use in the campaign. So we'll look at this in a little bit when we get to the campaign system, but it's really nice that you get here to kind of track the results of the campaign as it goes. So I'll see that in a little bit. Going into the book itself, the first half of the book really is the kind of the narrative and the story about War Zone Vigilus and what's going on. Now I know a lot of people probably want to read this for themselves, so I'm not going to go into any spoilers here because I know a lot of people want to see what happens. We get a bit of an update into what's happened previously on Vigilus and a little kind of a catch up for people who maybe missed the first two Vigilus books. We get some really nice artwork with maps on what the nearby systems are, and then yeah, basically goes into what's happening with all the various key players, what Abaddon's been up to, and the various forces that are heading to Vigilus, whether by intent or by fate. And we see the forces of the Imperium basically trying to hold onto the planet. So without going into too much spoilers, this Inquisitor Cartavolus has discovered that there's numerous Noctilith crowns around Vigilus, and he feels that by destroying them he can stop whatever foul things that the heretics are up to. Now, what's really nice, I believe this model is the store only model this year for store birthday, so I think it is available separately to buy soon, and it looks really, really nice. And we see him do some really, really cool stuff. We see a few people returning here. We see Celestine, we see Abaddon, so we get to see what those various forces are up to and what they're doing. Story-wise, I don't think it was as good as some of the stuff that we've seen in the Broken Realms series. Maybe because we're revisiting Vigilus, and obviously we've had 2 books dedicated to this planet so far. I'd have liked to have maybe seen a new location, but it is nice to see kind of the effects of what's happening after this. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, really. But there is some cool revelations. We do learn a little bit, a bit of a teaser at the end about what the next 40k Codex is going to be too. Now, by the time this review comes out, we've probably seen what the next Codex is. But yeah, basically there's a chaos night world that Abaddon's heading towards at the end of the book, which is a bit of a heavy hint. That's probably where we're going to go to next in the next one of these narrative supplements. But yeah, no, it's cool, just not as cool as some of the stuff we've seen in Broken Realms, which is a little bit of a shame, considering the obviously the main hook of this is the narrative foremost. I'm not saying it's a bad story. I just don't think there was as many kind of epic parts as we saw in the Broken Realms series, and I think that I'd kind of take this to the next level from a narrative point of view. Definitely well worth the read though, and I really do like the fact that that the studio is splitting up this story into these 6-month arcs, so we will see a continuation of the story, and there's some really cool moments within the story and stuff that'll be really good to reenact on the battlefield. I guess it's a hard one because they don't want to play all their cards straight away, especially at the start of this season format. If you think we've probably got another couple of years of this edition left, that's a couple of 6-month arcs they want to play through before they get to their final destination. I kind of have the impression that after the kind of Silent King and Necron's focus start of this edition, we're moving back to Abaddon, getting back the Vengeful Spirit, up to no good. I do wonder if we're going to see, I don't know, later on in the story arc, Abaddon heading to Terror and it all kicking off, and that may be leading into the next edition of the game. So I am interested in seeing where this goes, and arguably the fact that they can do these books every 6 months and gradually get to the story that way means that we don't have what we had with the Psychic Awakening series, where I think we had monthly books at one point, and some of them felt a little bit rushed. At least they can kind of maybe tee up events in this book that will pay off later on in the series. So I think we'll have to see a couple more into the series, see how the story goes, and yeah, I think that's exciting because they have done some really cool stuff with the narrative recently. So like I say, the first half of the book is the narrative, but the second half is lots of new content to add some cool stuff for your games. The first of which being a full campaign. So the idea is your gaming group, whether that's just 2 people or a group of people, will split into 2 sides, the Imperial side and the Chaos side, and various kind of Xenos races that don't fall into any of them, allies of convenience they'll call them here, will kind of steer towards one of those sides. So for example, the Eldar will want to stop chaos, so they'll side with the Imperiums. The Orcs just want to fight and be a nuisance, so they'll side from chaos from a kind of factions point of view, which makes things quite simple. It means that you can easily play this with 2 people as well, because you've just got 2 forces to deal with. What it does recommend having as well though is a campaign master. So think arbitrator, I guess, from Necromunda talk, somebody who basically looks after the campaign. They make sure everyone's playing all the games they need. They record all the stats of the wins and losses and keep things moving. Now what's cool is it gives you quite a bit of freedom on how you do set up the campaign. It recommends for most people 5 to 7 phases works about right. Now a phase can be as long as you want. It could just be a week and you play for 7 weeks, and within each week people try and get as many games in as they can to determine the effects of the game. What I'd say though, with this being a 6-monthly campaign, I'm probably going to play it over 6 phases and have each phase last a month. And that means that within that month people can get their games. There's not as much of a hurry to rush players into having those games. You know, obviously we've got unfortunately real life gets in the way sometimes, so having it spread over a month means that during that month, as long as you get your game in, you're fine. And with it being over 6 phases, by the time you get to the final phase, the next book in this series will be able to launch and you can lead into another campaign. So I think that's pretty fun. And basically the way it works, when you arrange a game with someone, you will either decide or randomly work out which of these 3 systems that you're fighting over. And at the end of each phase, based on how many games have been played, who's drawn a game, who's won a game, the ascendancy of that world will change. So they'll start neutral, and as Chaos win games, it'll fall towards Chaos. As the Imperium gets a foothold, it'll move towards Imperium. And basically at the end of each phase of the campaign, if one side's won more games than the other, it'll jump 1 step on the tracker. If they've got more than double the points of the opponent, they'll go 2 steps on the tracker. And that's where the nice kind of campaign map that we saw earlier comes in. That's a nice visual representation of the state of the system and what's happening. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Now, while you are playing this campaign, especially in a Crusade system, you gain the Imperial Alliance and Chaos Alliance keywords, and they will stay on your Crusade card as well. And what those different words do is unlock some different abilities for stratagems and the like, and different upgrades and stuff that you can get later on in the campaign. So that's quite a nice way of representing your forces being veterans of this campaign. So again, we play a lot of Crusade, and this is the kind of thing that we're definitely going to play through. If you're more of a match play kind of player, then give it a go. It is really fun. It's a different way of playing the game, and there's different things to think about, and you can kind of build a narrative out of your army. So I definitely recommend giving it a go. Now, depending on which planet you're playing your games on, there's different abilities that you can have, depending on whether you're an Imperial Alliance or Chaos Alliance. And they basically just work as different ways of kind of mixing up the game, so each game on each of these planets works a different way. Now what we also get is a legendary mission for each planet as well. So obviously you can, there's an accompanying Crusade book that's also up for pre-order today. Unfortunately I haven't got a hold of that yet, but that book will have, you know, Crusade missions set within that sector. But you can choose to play a kind of legendary mission, which is a specific game set around the narrative that we saw earlier in the book, allowing you to recreate those events. So some really fun stuff, and there'll be some specific kind of Crusade victor bonuses for the forces that I fought there. So yeah, pretty cool. I like this kind of stuff. You know, the person running the campaign could easily say, okay, in the specific weeks of the campaign, instead of playing the mission that you'd arranged, actually you're going to play this one instead. So you've got those as kind of like story beats throughout the campaign. So maybe, you know, every 2 phases, the person organising it will select one of those planets, and the first game that's played there will be one of these legendary missions. So nice little way of adding some flavour, and definitely benefits from somebody kind of running that campaign to do that side. Now, one of the new things that they've added in this to represent the fact that there's a bit of a shadow war going on, we kind of inherit the concealed deployment that the Genestealer cult get. So you can spend command points based on the power rating of the units that you've put into the concealed deployment to basically do the kind of blip deployment that the Genestealer cults have. Now, it's not as powerful as that because each blip has to be representing a specific unit. So you would have a unit of intercessors, label them unit 1, and you would put a marker with a 1 on it upside down somewhere in your deployment zone. So your opponent doesn't know where they're going to be, but only that unit can go on that blip. So it's not quite as strong as the Genestealer cults where they can go on any blip. So that's quite fun. You do have to play command points to put things into concealed deployment. But again, it's another fun narrative thing that you can throw in to show some sneaky dawn raids and the like. We also get some cool Crusade Relics. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you get the Imperial Alliance or Chaos Alliance keyword on your Crusade sheet, and they will unlock the specific Crusade Relics. So there's a special icon that does additional damage to Chaos units and demons that Imperial Alliance people get hold of. But equally, if you're Chaos Alliance, you can get a rune that gives you an invulnerable save and can give you extra command points. Some really, really fun stuff, and it does mix up the list of relics that you're able to take as part of your force, so really like those. Moving on to the army rules, we get some updates for the Space Marines. I don't know if this is going to be followed at some point in the future by a new Space Marine Codex perhaps, but we do get some updated profiles for the Captain Gravis armour and the Primaris Ancient. So both of these are new models that are also up for pre-order today. Andy has been working on painting these, so I should be able to sneak in some images of these by the time the article goes in. And they're really nice kits. So the Captain's got an option of different weapons that you can give him, and they gain this Gravis fighting styles rule. So basically, based on what weapons he's got, he gets some different abilities. So if he's got a power sword, he gets 2 additional attacks with it. If he's got the chain sword, he can make an additional 2 attacks on top of the extra attack he'd normally get for an additional 3 attacks. And if he's got a power fist, it gets an extra attack. And obviously, there's different pros and cons to which weapon you give him. I really like that, and this kind of harkens back to some of those old character kits that we used to get back in the day, where you had an assortment of different weapon options. You can kit them out different ways, which I think has been lacking in some of those older Space Marine hero models that we've had for the last couple of editions. Likewise for the Ancient as well, you get some nice options. You know, you can give him a power sword, it's got a really nice banner. So yeah, it's good to see these captured here. Like I say, who knows, in the future there might be a new Space Marine Codex at some point. In the meantime, they are here. Warhammer community have also put these data sheets free on the website as well. So if you want to use those models, you can access the rules. You don't have to buy this book to get them. I'm a bit of a completionist. I quite like having the hardback books with the rules in, but that's not just me. At least people who want to use those units can just get the free rules from the website if they want to. Now, what we also get for the Space Marines is the Vanguard Spearhead. So this represents those kind of Phobos armoured forces, the more stealthy, scouty army, and they get some additional rules. You've got some restrictions on what you can have in it. So you can only have Phobos, Suppressor Squads, Invicta Tacticals, War Suits and Impulsors. You can't have any Death Watch. If you keep to those, so like I say, basically your Suppressors, Phobos and the War Suits, you then get some additional keywords on your profile as well. And they will give you access to the new kind of Vanguard operations abilities. So every time a ranged attack is made against a unit, and the attacker is more than 18 inches away, they're treated as having the benefits of light cover. And what's really cool for your kind of fast moving stealth force is that when an infantry model moves more than 4 inches, they get a +1 to hit, which is really, really cool. So you've got as long as your guys keep moving forward, they're getting +1s to hit, which is really fun. And then finally they can consolidate 6 inches instead of 3 inches. So some nice abilities there. As you get the new keywords, you also get some unique relics that you can take because of it, and there are some unique stratagems as well. A lot of these have got special upgrades that you can buy that unlock different things for these stratagems as well. So again, nice way to make a nice thematic looking force and get some different benefits out of it as well. So that's pretty fun. We also get an Order of the Bloody Rose Codex supplement in here as well. So again, if you're assisted as a battle player, this gives you additional options for the Order of the Bloody Rose. You get a couple of new Warlord Traits. So, fiery example, each time the Warlord makes a melee attack against a character unit, add 1 to the attack's wound roll, and each time the Warlord destroys an enemy character unit, you gain 2 miracle dice. Pretty cool. Incandescent Reprisal, each time the Warlord would lose a wound on a 5+ it's not lost, and then once per phase after an enemy unit shoots or fights, if the Warlord suffered any wounds as a result of these attacks, if the Warlord's not within engagement range, it can shoot with a ranged weapon, and if it's within an engagement range, it can be selected to fight. So pretty cool. And then red-handed Castigator, each time you gain a miracle dice at the end of a phase as a result of a vengeance ability. If the Warlord destroyed any enemy units, the miracle dice becomes a 6. So again, that's pretty cool. If you can keep your Warlord mincing through units, you can get lots of 6s for your miracle dice. And then each time it makes a melee attack, if the Warlord made a charge move, was charged or performed a heroic intervention, you can re-roll the hit roll. And we also get some new relics for the Bloody Rose. We get a Core Power Sword, +2 strength, -3 AP, 2 damage. Whenever an unmodified wound roll of a 6 is rolled, the target suffers 2 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ends, so that's pretty cool. We get the Armour of True Sacrifice that gives you a 2+ save. And if it ever loses 1 or more wounds during a phase, you get a miracle dice. Really nice. And then the Icon of the Crimson Martyr can only be taken by an Imagifier. You add 1 to their wounds characteristic, and the bearer's Litany of Deeds ability is the following additional tale, which can be selected instead. Tale of the Martyr at the end of any phase other than the morale phase, in which any friendly Order of the Bloody Rose core unit were within 6 inches of the bearer were destroyed, you get a miracle dice in addition to any miracle dice you'd get for a character being destroyed as well. So some nice options there. They also get some additional stratagems too, so again increasing the options you've got for the Bloody Rose. And finally, at the end of this book, we get some additional Crusade rules as well. My favourite is probably the Banners of Renown. So this lets you take kind of legendary banners as part of your Crusade force for your Space Marines. So a requisition point gives you the Banner of Renown, and then basically you have a Renown tally that ticks up to 10 based on a list of things that you do. So each battle round, if it was within range of an objective marker, it gets a point. If it was within range of enemy units, if it destroyed any character models, if the model was wholly within your opponent's deployment zone, or if it performed the standard action. And then at the end of the battle, you add 1 if it lost any wounds but was not destroyed, or it won the battle. And basically over the course of the game, you can earn up to 10 points per game, and then you can spend those points in order to give the banner various upgrades. So for example, for 20 points, you can improve the save by 1 to a maximum of 2+. And if it suffers any banner damage, which we'll come to in a bit, it ignores it on a 4+. So some really cool things there. So you can basically tell the tale of your banner bearer fighting valiantly and more kind of tales and renown being powered upon this banner. Now the downside to this is, if that banner suffers any damage, then obviously that's going to have a negative effect on the morale of the army. So where normally you would roll your out of action test and see if anything bad happens to them, if something bad happens to the banner bearer, something will happen to the banner, and you've got a D3 chart to roll on to see what happens. So yeah, a bit of a double-edged sword. I quite like that though. You can picture this kind of ragged, battered banner, but the guy's heroically gaining more renown and getting some abilities that outweigh some of the kind of minus effects you've got from this. So again, really nice thing, and a nice bit of Crusade content for the Space Marines as well, who I think maybe need a bit more Crusade love if they do get a future Codex. We also get the ability to build an Army of Faith. So this is really cool. It's a bit of a unique mixed army, and again this is all designed for Crusade, so you can have Adeptus Astartes, Adeptus Ministorum and Astra Militarum units together in the same army, and basically it's a kind of religious zealots who are kind of driving themselves into a frenzy, and they kind of gain and lose this religious fervour based on what they do during the battle, which is really, really cool. And then they can use that to do different abilities. So based on what state they're in, they're able to get different bonuses. So really, really fun. I quite like this. Again, it reminds me of the kind of legendary legions that you get in the Middle Earth strategy battle game, where you've got a really kind of unique force tied to the storyline of the book, a bunch of religious fanatics. If you've been collecting, I don't know, the Imperium magazine, and you've got some Sisters and some Space Marines and thrown some Astra Militarum, you'll be able to put a nice mixed force together, representing all these kind of religious fanatics that have been called to Vigilus and fighting against the dark forces that are there. We also get some new rules for the new Battle Zone Frontierists now. Some new terrain kits have been shown off recently on Warhammer Community, and this is basically the rules for using them within your games. So we've got, I mean, they're really, really nice. I can't wait to see the to see the models come out. But as well as having kind of what kind of match play rules they've got, so light cover, exposed position, all that kind of stuff, they also have some narrative play abilities as well. So they're really fun and can add a bit of kind of narrative excitement to the game. So really like that. Really want to pick these up because I think they look really, really cool. So I really like that they've added those. And that is Vigilus Alone. So yeah, pretty cool book. Like I said, the story isn't as good as the best Broken Realm stuff, and I hope that we see things get a little bit more exciting as we move into the next element of the story. There are some cool elements in it, and it's good to see what Abaddon's been up to as well, and the vengeful spirit. The kind of narrative gameplay stuff in the back is really, really cool. The campaign looks amazing. Can't wait to play it. Some really fun Crusade content for armies in here as well. So if you are into the Crusade way of playing things, I definitely would recommend picking this up. Like I say, I haven't had a chance to see the Crusade supplement that's up for pre-order today as well. I imagine that will gel quite well with this, because I think that'd be the best way to play through the campaign in here. So yeah, that was a quick look at Vigilus Alone. I have got a full write-up over on the website as well, if you want to check that out. Otherwise, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see you soon.